virtual green room, Rohan Stewart has written a book called Renewing Your Mind Daily, Book 1, Embracing the Culture of the Kingdom. So interesting how he wrote this book, and I can't wait for him to tell his story and share his story with all of you. I mean, this is a 40-day devotional that really emphasizes the culture of God's kingdom. It embraces a culture that highlights how renewing the way we think can lead to transformation and an exemplary lifestyle of submission to the authority of the kingdom of heaven. And how did he arrive at all this, I think, is what is so fascinating. And I think you're going to find him fascinating as well. So I got to ask you the first question. What was it that inspired you to write this book?
I was inspired to write the book because of two main reasons, I would say. First is an encounter with a man of God who immersed himself in fasting and prayer and ultimately had supernatural experiences that gripped my attention. I found myself salivating for this type of experiences with God. I applied for my dream job, but was denied the opportunity since I arrived at the interview a few minutes late. I was very upset that such a golden opportunity slipped through my fingers. I sought employment elsewhere and was accepted. It was at this job that I was introduced to this man of God. So what I thought was a rejection turned out to be contraction to my rebirth, as I had to be born again. And this is the path that God destined for me to do so and to pursue righteousness. And second is a scripture found in Romans chapter 12 and verse 2, which basically says that we should not conform to the traditions of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of our minds.
So in doing this, as you said, arriving late, it leads you down this path. There was something else that you and I talked about that prompted you to go in that direction of renewing your mind daily. What else was it that you were noticing around you?
It probably was the dream that we discussed, that this man of God that I met, well, he was just so passionate about fasting and praying and reading scriptures. And I admired that. I thought he was crazy. I didn't understand why someone would fast the entire day and read scriptures and pray. I mean, I went to church, but I wasn't deep into God as he was. So I thought he was crazy. But then he told me a dream. He told me about a dream he had. And I thought it was just crazy that he would even expect that this dream would manifest. But you know what? The dream came to fruition. And it was then I said to myself, God, I want to know you like he knows you. I want to have the type of relationship that he has with you. So I started to fast and pray and just spend time in the presence of God, reading scriptures, praying, and worshiping God on a daily basis. And then God proved himself to be no respecter of persons. I too start having dreams, about future things, and one of them I captured in the book. I found myself in this tall building. I was probably about midway, and I could see. I was at a staircase, and I could see the top, the pinnacle of this building, and I realized that there was fire, and it was growing increasingly ferocious. I panicked, and then I started to run down the spiral staircases. As I exited the building, I saw what seemed to be hundreds of people gazing to the top of this structure. I realized that there was like a ball of fire, at the top. And it was just getting more ferocious. Then I saw people jumping out, and I couldn't understand why they would do that. Because, of course, from such a height, by the time you on collision, it's instant death. And there were many people doing that. And I was startled. I grieved for them. But then that terrible situation even took a turn for the worse, as I saw now that the building started to collapse, and the debris and the cloud of dust that came along with it. No one could stand in its way. So we all had to scramble for our lives, as the dust and debris was just chasing us, and nothing could withstand its ferocity. So I ran as fast as I could, and I got to a point of safety. And then when the dust settled, I went back, because I was very curious. I went back and started to climb up on the debris and the rocks and everything. And when I looked below my feet, it was just uncountable dead bodies. And I woke up from the dream thinking that this must be the church that is about to be shaken up. And little did I know that 911 would happen. So the dream was like in January of 2001, and then of course September 11 happened. And I said to myself, God, you are no respecter of persons for one, and you hold a future in the palm of your hands. Nothing happens without you allowing it to happen. So I know there are members of our audience who probably also hold the belief I did, that these type of things, these dreams, were just happening in Bible days. But I would say no, because of my experiences and the experiences of others captured in this book, that God desires intimacy. God desires for us to spend time with Him and to worship and pray. It's not just the routine of going to services weekly. It's more than that. It's building that intimacy with God, just as we would in like marriage relationship.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. We're speaking with Rohan Stewart, and the name of the book is Renewing Your Mind Daily. You can get it on Amazon.com. What do you hope people take away from reading this?
So I would hope that people would three things, I would say. First is first let's go back to the book a little bit. Embracing Culture of the Kingdom. Book one, about embracing the culture. Reading Your Mind Daily, Reading Your Mind Daily, book one, Embracing the Culture of the Kingdom. It's really about transformation. So it encourages us to renew the way we think by coming in alignment with the culture of the Kingdom of God. For example, number one, forgiving without limits. The first devotional focuses on tapping into the uncharted depths of forgiveness. It speaks about a married couple on the brink of divorce due to the wife's infidelity. This formidable opponent to the longevity and success of any marriage. Sorry, let me repeat that. This is a formidable opponent to the longevity and success of any marriage. Mm-hmm. But the problem was further exacerbated when the husband ascertained that his wife was pregnant with another man's child. These are the moments when we need to tap into our God-given power to forgive. Just a few weeks ago, we had a teachable moment igniting the discussion on forgiveness. When Brian John, the brother of the late Botham John, publicly forgave and hugged the woman responsible for the slaying of his brother. Such uncharted depth of forgiveness should be replicated across cities and states and The second example of how renewing your mind daily encourages us to be transformed is to dispel the myth that divine dreams and visions are not for today, but exclusively reserved for Bible days. The book provides real-life testimonies that God still speaks to his children today via dreams. Just as I mentioned before, with my testimony.
Yeah.
Consequently, I adopted a lifestyle of fasting routinely each day, during which I would pray, sing songs of worship to the Lord, and read scriptures. Then God proved himself to be no respecter of persons.
Yeah. Yep. And you know what? That's the perfect place to end this because we're up against it. Rohan Stewart, again, renewing your mind daily, especially the time of year that we're in. It's a perfect time for this. Any time is a perfect time for it, but definitely now when we're thinking about so much with important holidays coming up and whatnot. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, I thank you so much, Kate, for having me.